Thank you for joining our webinar today. I'm Jenny Humphreys, the Executive Director of 3AF. And before we turn it over to our speaker, I wanted to share a little bit more about 3AF and our initiatives. Okay, so our webinar today is called The Asian American Opportunity, Riding the Asian Wave. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, I'm Jenny Humphreys, the Executive Director of 3AF, and our guest speaker today is Iris Yim. She is a 3AF board member and Chief Strategist and Principal of Sparkle Insights. So what are we going to talk about today? As I mentioned earlier, we are going to share a little bit about 3AF and our programs and initiatives, and then I will turn it over to Iris. Just a reminder that we are recording today's session. If you missed anything and want to look back, we will have it on our website under our research and webinar pages. Okay, so next slide, please. So 3AF, we are the leading resource when it comes to Asian advertising, Asian marketing, and the power of the Asian American consumer. Next slide, please. So I wanted to share a little bit about our biggest event of the year. We call it the Asian Marketing Summit, largest national conference focusing on the Asian consumer segment. Hopefully those of you on the call were in attendance. If not, we hope to see the rest of you next year. We typically have it in May during Asian Heritage Month. This May, it was in Little Tokyo, Los Angeles, at the Japanese American National Museum. A couple of pictures here on the slide, but we had 150 plus attendees, media, marketers, agencies, researchers, corporations, other industry vendors and partners. And we had 19 sessions over 2 days. And we ended the summit with a really cool screening of Disney's American-Born Chinese. So I hope that those of you on the call can attend. We will be sending out information about next year's conference and look forward to seeing you there. Okay, next slide. Wanted to also share that every year we do what we call the 3AF Excellence Awards, and that's where we honor the best and brightest work in our industry. These are some of the categories that you see here: Marketer of the Year, New Marketer, Media Partner, Marketing Research Partner, Digital Campaign of the Year, PR Campaign, and then Creative Campaign. We do gold, silver, and bronze awards. And it's a great way for us to recognize all the great work that's being done in our industry. Okay, next slide, please. Wanted to also highlight our Next Gen Leaders program. It's actually a program that we launched in 2021. It's to help the rising Asian leaders in marketing, advertising, and the creative industry. This year, we're partnering with Asians in advertising. We actually are launching the 2023 cohort class later this month, but I'm really proud to say that this time we paired 125 people, so 125 pairs, which is huge. It shows me that there's a great interest in this program, and we're really proud to be working with our friends and Asians in advertising to make it happen. Next slide. Another big part of our role at 3AF is to help our minority-owned media. We want to be partnering with the National and MNSDC to help our media get certified, find opportunities with corporations and others to really expand their value and their worth. And then we are also right now putting together a comprehensive media directory of minority-owned media. And here are some of the logos of some of our media members below. Okay, I don't think I need to remind all of you, you guys are here because you know that research is very critical. We're going to talk about the study that we did with HMC later today, but I also wanted to point out that we have done our own research. We have information on our website about 2 studies, one in 2016, one in 2019. You'll find that information on our website, but we are honored to have collaborated with Hispanic Marketing Council, Nielsen, and others to bring research on Asian American consumers to our industry. Okay, so I hope I piqued your interest in 3AF. These are some of the reasons why we hope you'll join us, become a member, participate in our events, and attend the summit. Later on today, we'll have Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about 3AF. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Iris Yim, our featured guest speaker. Iris, over to you.
Hi, thank you, Jenny. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, let me switch to presenter mode. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. I am very excited to share some highlights from a study that the 3F collaborated with the Hispanic Marketing Council on. It's a study about the growing power of the multicultural majority. So a little bit background about the research methodology. It consists of both quantitative and qualitative components. We conducted thousands of online interviews, and there's also a sizable qualitative components. Let me go to this next slide. So we talked to people around across different ethnic groups, across different age groups. You can see that some of the respondents that we talked to on the screen, they are teenagers. That's right. 1/3 of the sample of the study is 13 to 17-year-old, because, this is the people who grew up in an environment that's multicultural, majority. So it's important to understand what they think. We did these qualitative interviews in Los Angeles, Houston, and New York. So it's Labor of Love by the research team. Nancy Taylor, she's my counterpart at the Hispanic Marketing Council, and she is the project lead, and she really spent a lot of time on the research design, project management, and also now deep in the trenches of the analysis, because it's a massive study. And Shadira Sandiana and Linda Gonzalez and we moderated all the qualitative interviews. The study covers a long list of topics, including identity, parenting. So election is coming up. So what kind of issues, people care about and their party affiliation, right? Social circles, DEI, what the people expect, at workplace, work and money, shopping, lots of questions about media and the power of in culture, content in marketing, and intersectionality. For the purpose of this presentation, I am going to focus on 4 areas: identity and racial relations, shopping, media, and Asian influence. As I mentioned earlier, the study covers multiple segments, including Caucasian, Hispanic, African American, and Asian. And because this is a 3F webinar, so all the data I present in this presentation, it's Asian only, because we want to highlight the Asian story. Nancy Taylor and I will be presenting the findings of all the segments at the upcoming ANA Multicultural Marketing Conference and also the Advertising Week. Okay, so the first topic, identity and multicultural majority. This is my favorite topic. I am going to first show you a video to give you a sense of the different layers of identity Asian Americans have, because it is a complicated topic. There's a lot of diversity in the community because, you have the US born, the foreign born, you have also different Asian subsegments, Chinese, Indian, Filipino, etc. So there are many different ways that the Asians identify themselves with. What you see on the screen, it's a projective technique that I used during the qualitative interviews. I asked respondents to put in the center, the middle, the both eyes, that, what's their most important identity? What do they first and foremost identify as? And then, what other ways that they identify themselves with, then they put those identities in the circles further out. The circles further out, that means those identities are decrease in importance. So I'm going to share this video with you.
I mean, I can change my occupation as a teacher or my, marital status or something like that, but I feel like that's something that's inexplicably tied to my story and to my identity. It also affects how I present in the world. Even if I wanted to turn it off, it's not like it's possible, right? So it's kind of inextricably a part of me, and it affects the way that I view the world.
I am 100% Asian American. It's just that's the only time I really have a chance, I guess, to say I am Asian American is on forums.
Well, it's not easy to be a Muslim person in this country. And, again, I don't want to downplay all of the positive that is out there. We are supposed to be land of the free and home for all, right? And based on the constitutional privileges that we're supposed to have, it is geared toward one particular, group of power is what I want to call it.
I think the American term is tricky. There are a lot of things that I think that, like, when you hear like American, there's very like stereotypical for people to think of like who you are. This is a whole complex conversation about racism and systems and privilege and what it means to be American. I wouldn't call myself like a proud American first and foremost. Like, yes, I'm American. I was born here, I was raised here, I appreciate the freedoms I have here, but I don't attach it as like this is my core identity, or this is even an identity I'm like super proud to claim.
Technically, yes, I do believe that Asian Americans are people of color, but it's like another like internal crisis that I often have is that, like, yes, I'm Pakistani, but my skin color is really light, and so when there is an issue of colorism, I'm not going to speak on it. But I do believe that Pakistani Americans and like all Asian Americans are people of color.
I mean, I can change my occupation.
Okay, so in the survey, we asked 3 questions about identities. We first gave people a long list of identities and asked them to pick, top 3. So the most important, identity, people pick is race ID or ethnicity. Because we are all multi-dimension, right? So other ways that Asians identify themselves with is my family road. For example, especially if you have children, people identify themselves first and foremost as a parent, and also my moral code, values, or religious beliefs. Asian Indians, they are more likely to identify themselves first and foremost, as Hindu or Muslim. And other important identities are, being a creative person and my life stage. And another question we asked about identity is we gave people a list of different labels: ethnicity, meaning Chinese, Asian, Indian, Filipino, Korean, etc. Asian American, American, and person of color. So you can see on the screen that ethnicity is the most important identity. Asian American, it is an identity that most Asians would use. However, as you can see from the video, it's an identity on forms. The only way that you get to use Asian American is when you're checking a box, when you're filling out a form. So it's quite unlikely that in daily conversation you will say I am Asian, right? Americans, it's not the most important or the most top of mind identity. Yes, for U.S. born Asians, they're born and raised in the U.S., but at the same time, especially during the pandemic, there's a wake-up call of, there is still a lot of racism going on. So there are a lot of concerns about just discrimination and racism. And person of color, it is an identity that Asians the least associate with. However, if you ask a separate question whether they identify as person of color, actually more than 50% will say yes. And the reason being that it's more an internal versus an external identity. The term is most associated with colorism. And by and large, people understand it refers to non-white, but some Asian Americans refrain from using the phrase because they feel that Asians do not experience the same level of negative experience as African American or Hispanic. Regardless of how they feel about persons of color, majority do feel a sense of unity with other POC. About 1/3 feel that the different POCs will come together to support one another and leverage their combined political clout. And about half are more pragmatic and believe that different POCs will come together when their interests are aligned. Moving on to the second topic, shopping. By the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box, and we'll circle back to your questions at the end of the presentation, okay? So price is obviously very important, especially in a high inflation environment. But what are some of the considerations that are more important than price? So other than price, the most important consideration for shopping is trusted quality and reliability. Consumers are willing to pay a premium for a good quality product that will last for a long time. Other important considerations are healthy and safe products, because Asian consumers are health conscious and they want to purchase healthy products such as organic products. Post-pandemic, convenience is very important, and as well as sustainability. In fact, environmental issues and sustainability are one of the most important issues for Asian Americans. If you see on the bar chart on the left, a brand being inclusive and respectful of all is not the most important, most top of mind consideration when it comes to shopping or considering what brands to purchase. 12% of people rated this as one of the most important considerations. But if you ask a separate question about whether you have chosen to buy a brand due to DEI, and more than 50% said yes. Although DEI may not be the most important consideration in shopping, however, if a brand makes a mistake, it backfires very quickly. More than half said they have stopped buying a brand due to the brand being disrespectful to my racial or ethnic group, my moral values, not just my racial and ethnic group, but also other, racial ethnic groups, and also LGBTQ community, political values, and religious community. So it's very tricky to be in marketing these days, lots of different interests and values to navigate through. In terms of how people shop nowadays, it's obviously very different compared to pre-pandemic. Because people nowadays, they feel comfortable about shopping online for just about anything. But we also see, there's a lot of shopping in person, going back to in person. So what we have observed is there's equal split between preferences for shopping online versus shopping in person. About 1/3 prefer to shop online most of the time. 28% said, I don't really have a preference. And 38% said that they prefer to shop in person most of the time. For those who prefer to shop online, price is the most important reason, although it's not necessarily true, but most people believe that, they can get a better deal online. And plus, online has the convenience of free shopping. You can quickly find what you're looking for, and also, it's quite easy to return if you get the incorrect product or you change your mind. Okay, so social media, is plays a very influential role in our daily life. We spend a lot of time on social media. So naturally, it also plays a very important role in shopping. 67% have purchased something through social media. And social media is one of the most important ways for people to find out about new products and new brands. The best social media app for product discovery is Instagram, followed by Facebook. Only 18% said that they've found out about new products or new brands on YouTube. In the media section, you will see that YouTube is actually the most important, the most popular social media app. But the reason that people don't really use that for new products or brand discovery, I think it's because a lot of people come to YouTube for content. When you see an ad that disrupts your viewing, it's quite annoying, and you just can't wait to skip the ad. So the next section is media. What you see on the screen is usage of different social media apps. The most popular social media apps Asians use are YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I hope you're not thinking that, oh, great, Asian Americans use general market social media. Well, the reason that YouTube is very popular is because it has a lot of in-language content. You can pretty much find content in just about any language on YouTube. There's lots of Korean drama, lots of Chinese drama, for example. And because the data is all Asian, so some of the apps, for example, WeChat, it is a very important app for Chinese. If you see data, for Chinese only, that number is going to be a lot higher than what you're seeing on the screen. And same thing for KakaoTalk. We also observe some age differences in social media usage. So it's not a secret that the users of Facebook skew older. 70% of Facebook users are adult, compared to 43% of teens use Facebook, and the audience for TikTok and Discord skew younger. My 14-year-old son, he and all his friends are on Discord. Short form video is very popular nowadays, and the platforms that people use to view short form videos are pretty consistent with the most popular social media apps that they use. And TikTok, although it pioneered this media form, that only comes in fourth. So how do people access video content nowadays? Well, paid online streaming subscription is the way to go. Almost 70% have multiple paid online streaming subscriptions, such as Netflix, Prime Video, Disney, HBO Max, and about half watches videos on free online streaming apps such as YouTube. I mean, the free version of it. And about 1/3 watch video on cable or satellite TV, and 31% use a paid online multi-channel subscription, such as YouTube TV, the paid version of it. And 20% purchase movies or TV episodes on a needed basis, for example, from Amazon. And 30% watch video on over-the-air free broadcast TV. There are a lot of choices for online streaming platforms nowadays, and the competition is fierce. Netflix is still the clear market leader. 37% have Netflix, and Prime Video, Hulu, Disney Plus, and HBO Max each have about 10% of the market share. And the latest thing about online streaming is an ad-supported, more affordable tier. And we did explore that topic during qualitative interviews. We asked people what they think about seeing ads but paying less for their subscription. And I have to say that it's not a very popular idea. People are not very enthusiastic about seeing ads when they are paying for it, regardless of the price point, because in their mind, the whole point of paying for your subscription is because you don't want to see any ads whatsoever. I guess that explains why Netflix has only managed to sign up 1.5 million subscribers for their ad supported tier, and that's a paltry 2% of their about 75 million US subscriber base. And phenomenon that we observed is a lot of interest in diverse content on the online streaming. On the left, you can see that Asian consumers, they are not only interested in storylines and casts, featuring Asian stories or Asian casts, but also contents that features other minority groups, such as Blacks and Hispanic. And on the right, this is about viewership of shows in languages that I do not speak, meaning that you have to watch subtitles. So it used to be people were really against watching subtitles, but things are changing. So 30% said that I watch these types of shows all the time, and 30% said I watch, a couple of these shows, and 20% said I did not know that, but I am interested in watching shows, in languages that I do not speak. In addition to interest in shows in diverse content, 36% of the time Asian consumers on streaming platforms is spent on watching Asian language shows, whether that's because you speak the language and you watch these shows in your native language, or you watch the subtitles. And another way to access Asian language content is through watching traditional Asian TV channels. 24% watch Asian TV channels frequently, and 29% watch these channels occasionally. I am going to show you some videos to illustrate Asian consumers' interest in diverse content.
I think if it's good, like it doesn't matter what language it's in.
I see.
Yeah, and like Lupin, like the French show. There's a lot of shows with different languages, and I think that's really cool. And also just like represents a whole bunch of different cultures. I think that's sick.
Yeah, for sure. I love Fresh Off the Boat. Fresh Off the Boat. That's my favorite show. Yeah, Fresh Off the Boat. Like I can literally see like my mom as Jessica and her having to like raise these like whitewashed children. Like she's just trying to like I feel like I understand the Asian experience, the immigrant experience.
How important to you to have these, Chinese language radio stations or TV channels available?
Very important, because there's like community members that they really do not know English. Like their only language is Chinese, so that's their only source of getting like some information or the news like in their community.
I think.
Hey, that brings us to the last topic, Asian influence. So we know that BTS is popular. We know Asian videos, like for example, Korean drama, Chinese drama, they're popular. And we know that Asian beauty products are popular, but we really didn't really have any data to prove how popular they are. So I finally have a chance to ask all the questions that I want to ask in this study. So food is the most influential culture connectors. Asian food is very popular, and there's also a lot of interest in Asian fusion food, for example, Korea taco. Majority watch Asian shows in English or foreign languages, it's especially popular among Hispanics. I guess that explains why occasionally when I watch Chinese drama shows on YouTube, there will be Spanish language ads popping up. And 58% Hispanic, 53% white, and 45% Black consumers, they listen to K-pop, Bollywood, and other music with distinct Asian influences. About 1/3 of Hispanic and 1/3 of Caucasian consumers, they purchase Asian makeup or beauty products, and 26% of Black consumers also do so. And I think that number is slightly lower because there are not a lot of shades in Asian beauty products for Black consumers. However, these numbers, that's despite the lack of distribution in the US for Asian beauty products, because mass retailers is really the most important distribution channel for beauty products. That's where people get most of their skincare and beauty products. But the selection for Asian beauty products, in this channel is very limited. So that means a lot of the products purchases happen online. So that really speaks about, these numbers really speak about the popularity, of this category. I'm going to show you a few videos to illustrate Asian influences on popular culture.
I love any Asian food. Oh my god, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I can eat that almost every day if I could.
I listen to a lot of K-pop.
Ah, you listen to K-pop?
Yeah, like me and my sister are like very big fans of it. Yeah, we go to like K-pop concerts like all the time.
Do you purchase any Asian makeup beauty products?
Like Korean skincare? Yeah, I'm into it.
What made you want to try it?
They have good skin, and when I used to work for a cosmetic manufacturer, I met someone that was like a whole technique, so I believe in it. There's a whole philosophy behind it. Right, our students are obsessed with K-pop and I forgot that band, and I'm like, so BTS. So they just like sent me, they told me this song that I have to listen to, and I have not 1 ounce of desire for BTS, but they said it's a positive, good song, so I'm going to try it and see.
Okay, so what we learned from the qualitative interviews that a lot of parents learn about K-pop and BTS from their kids or students. Okay, so I know that we went through a lot of slides. So just to recap, some key takeaways from this presentation. Ethnicity is the most important identity for Asian Americans, but they also share empathy for other Asian segments that are not uniquely their own, and also other minorities. Asian consumers watch Asian content in language and in English to maintain connection to their cultural roots. They are also interested in other diverse content. And lastly, Asian culture has immense influence on the mainstream culture. So that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if we have any questions.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you, Iris, for that wonderful presentation. Really appreciated your insights and being the lead on this very critical study. I do see some questions. Feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box and I will read them out loud. Okay, here's the first one. Were there social media usage stats pulled from the study participants only or wider data?
It's from the study only. And like I said, the data that I present in this presentation, it's Asian only data.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
and you mentioned later on you're going to be presenting at ANA, and that's going to be more comprehensive because the study actually surveyed other ethnicities and including 13 to 17-year-olds, which was surprising to me, but perfect. Okay. The next question. I think the research can generate important insights if we can zoom in to ethnic Indian, Pakistanis, China, Taiwanese, Hong Kong Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, Thai, Vietnamese.
Okay, so I am still waiting for breakdown data on different Asian subgroups. So we may be able to share insights in that regard later. But I just want to say that there are some limitations in this regard, because it really depends on whether we have a readable base for a certain segment. For example, I feel pretty comfortable that we can pull data on Chinese, Asian, Indian, and Filipino. Those are the largest segments. But for the smaller segments, we really have to see whether we have a readable base to read findings on those smaller segments.
Okay, here's a question, Iris, on Asian makeup and beauty products. Do you refer to Asian branded or Asian made products? Some of Estee Lauder's products are made in Korea. Would that be considered Asian makeup and cosmetic products in this study?
That's a great question. So I think it depends on how the respondents interpret the question, because we ask the question rather generic. we ask consumers about Asian makeup and beauty products, right? So
it's their definition.
Exactly.
Right? Okay, here's another question. Keep these questions coming, guys. POC is a broad term. I am not sure to what extent African-American businesses and brands are supported by Asian Americans. I guess that's more of a statement.
Right.
Okay. Ever thought of a tracking study like this to monitor the changing dynamics of the AA community?
Okay, so the Hispanic Marketing Council, actually, they have been running this study for a few years. I believe this is the third time that they're doing this study, but this is the first time that the study includes an Asian sample. So for other segments, Caucasian, Hispanic, and African American, Hispanic Marketing House, they do have tracking data. But since this is the first time that the study includes Asian sample, there is no tracking. But the next time that we do this study, we partner on this again, then there will be some tracking.
Okay, super. Here's another question. Is there a difference between Asians based on how long they've been here in the U.S.? For instance, Asians that have recently immigrated to those that have immigrated in the 70s. In addition, is there a difference between Asian US born versus Asian born in their native country? I guess that means for this study.
Okay, so again, we have yet to delve into the whether there's any differences between the different segments. We don't really have granular data on, I guess, length of stay in the US. I don't think we asked the question, like for born, how long have you stayed in the US? But we do have data points for US born Asians versus foreign born, so we can definitely take a look at that. So my experience in conducting Asian research is that there are different values between US born and foreign born Asians. So we will be able to look at the data and share that later.
Super. Okay. Here's another question. Has there been any marketing campaigns that you know of where they reach the Hispanic community through Asian audience targeting or vice versa? Was this successful, as you mentioned, that there's 70% Asian influence in Hispanic communities in terms of video content?
Okay, I don't think I am an expert.
Yeah, we could check.
Right. I mean,
we could check with Hispanic Marketing Council, because that would be more of their area, right?
Right. That's more a question for agencies, because I am only responsible for the research part.
That's great. Good. Okay, so we have a few more minutes. Those of you on the call, if you have any additional questions, again, feel free to type them into the chat box, Q&A box. Iris, I have a question that I wanted to, while we're waiting for more people to fill in with more questions. I noticed that 13 to 17-year-olds were a big part of this study for the first time. And obviously they are going to be the multicultural marketing majority as they grow up and they become consumers and heads of households. What was it like interviewing them? Did you kind of change wording, or what was your impression?
Well, we have two versions of discussion guide, version for adults and version for teenagers. They're quite similar because it covers the same topic. I mean, there are some questions that are tailored to, for example, the teenagers. But in terms of, how I ask the questions or where the questions, I would say, because well, they are teenagers. I mean, they are actually quite articulate. I
noticed that too.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't really have to like change the way I ask questions. In fact, I am actually, quite impressed by, how interested and how connected, they are to, I guess, their cultural roots and interest in
their pride in the
learning,
culture.
right? Exactly, in learning to speak the language too. So the two teenage boys that in New York that I talked to, in fact, they were talking about it, and one of them, he said that he wants to speak better, Mandarin, just so that he can communicate with his grandparents. So I was impressed by that.
That is impressive. Great. Okay, more questions. Yay. Okay, here's another one. Did your respondents mention any specific marketing campaigns that they felt were tone deaf, offensive to their ethnicity group?
During the qualitative interview, so when we were talking about brands being, disrespectful to, I guess, their specific, ethnic groups, or whether they have any examples, whether they when they stop buying a brand. So yeah, there were a couple of examples that were cited. I don't really have this brand off the top of my head, but it's like an Italian, luxury brand that they ran some the ads, featuring a Chinese woman using chopsticks, very clumsily to eat spaghetti. So that's the example that was cited, that the respondent, said she stopped buying that brand, because of the, of the stereotype and the negative advertisements that, was run.
Yeah, super. Okay, here's another question. LA and New York are very diverse areas, but are non-diverse areas going to be explored? I guess that's a question we'll have to answer if we collaborate again with Hispanic Marketing Council. But because we want to make sure that, ethnic communities are included in these studies.
Right. Well, we also did some of the qualitative interviews in Houston, but Houston is also a very, diverse area because, from the interviews that I conducted, and also I listened to some of the qualitative interviews among non-Asians, conducted by other moderators, and some Hispanic respondents said, where she is, she feels that she's the majority. That's Houston.
Houston. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I don't see any more questions, but we have 1 minute left. Last chance, any questions, attendees, if you'd like to put them in the chat box, that would be great. I want to thank Iris Yim again for that wonderful presentation. We will be posting the recording on our website, on our research link page. And then also just to shout out, we are actually going to be at Advertising Week New York. It's the largest event in New York for people in marketing, advertising, creative. So I hope to see a lot of you there. The dates are October 16th to 19th, and Iris will actually be one of the presenters presenting the Asian component of this study along with Nancy Tellett from HMC. So hopefully we'll see you guys there. We're actually having a 3AF networking event too, if you're going to be in town in New York. And those of you who are on our e-blast list will be sending more information about that later. So again, we're ending right on time. It's 10:45. I want to thank you for participating. Stay tuned for our next webinar. We actually are adding a new one September 18th with General Motors. And then the one after that is October 3rd, and we're going to be featuring AARP, and the topic is caregiving. So again, thank you all for joining. Really appreciate your time. Please feel free to reach out if you have questions about 3AF, and hope to see you at the summit. And some of you are writing, you'll see me in New York. See you in New York. Bye.